Jinks here. Today we're going to talk about more basic stuff for the advantage of some of the beginning students. All you beginners out there kind of get left by the wayside a lot. Mostly the videos out there are for the intermediate and advanced guys. Everybody's on YouTube trying to see how fast they can play. Everybody's busy showing off, so you guys kind of get left in the dust. So today I'm going to go over a lot of basic stuff, and all you intermediate and advanced guys could also, benefit from the beginning training and basic techniques, because it's always good to remember all your basics. Okay, so like I was saying in some of my snare drum technique, I'll always, keep your hand, not that it's flat, but when you look down at it, you want to think that it kind of looks flat, and all your knuckles are straight across, and your fingers kind of look like steps, because because of their length, their difference of length. And as the angle of the stick in your hand, they kind of look like steps, and each knuckle kind of goes back down from the one before it, and as you look at it, each different section down there kind of just wraps around, and it's a step down from the one before it, no matter which direction you go. Okay, so, and basically, just as long as you don't strain yourself and try to keep your hand as flat as possible, spread out, and each finger wrapped around the stick, and comfortably, and no matter how you move, what kind of note you're playing, tap or accent, single or double or triple, don't let your fingers come off the sticks. Multi-bounce patterns, your stick is going to open up from your hand to make sure when you squeeze back together that the sticks come back up into your hand. Okay? So one of the biggest things is in that motion is keeping the stick against your hand. You lift your hand up, and lots of times you might have the trouble of making sure the stick comes with it, because immediately as soon as you bring your hand up, you want to open up your fingers. Okay, so you got to make sure you don't do that. I mentioned before that I walked around and just played in the air, not playing on the drum when I was taught this technique, and that helped me to not be concerned with playing on any surface, and how fast I could get back down to the surface to play a note. Okay, so I just very slowly moved in the air and made sure that when I was coming up, I brought my fingers that were under the stick up with the top of my hand. You have to think of the fingers under the stick as much as you're thinking about your hand, which are on top. Okay? As well as how the hand feels, and how the fingers feel according to the mass of stick in between them. Okay? The relationship to that weight, that extra weight, depending on what size of stick you're using. Okay? And what you have to do, and how the physics change as the angle changes. Okay? So do that very slowly. It might feel kind of stiff and rigid and boring, but the more you do it, and of course the heavier stick you use, the more you're going to feel it. But the more you do it, the more you're going to think about it. Okay? So really try to focus on what that what that's making your muscles do. The more times you do that, um, and if you're having any cramping or anything while you're doing this, uh, try to keep going. Just try to relax that muscle and use other muscles, because you have, you know, hundreds, thousands of muscles in your hands and your arms that you can use. Eventually, you'll be able to, learn how to use all of them at the same time, and that's what makes it really easy for, advanced drummers to play all the notes that they play. Okay, so when you're just beginning, uh, go very slow and find all those muscles because they're in there. It just takes, years to find them. All right, so now when you get back to, striking your surface, and, if you think once you got a pretty good grasp of what technique is and what it means to play with a good technique, when you're coming down and you get to right about here, that's when you want to think about a pivot action taking place. Your wrist coming up to move your hand down, and that's when you get kind of that pivot action that happens between your knuckles and your wrist. I always kind of thought the pivot point really wasn't your wrist, but was kind of at the corner of this seam of your thumb and your first finger, because your wrist and your knuckles kind of what pivots against each other. That's the motion, and that's the action, because your arm goes up when your hand goes down. When the tip of the stick goes down, your wrist comes up. And your wrist is just the end of your forearm. It's not its own thing. Okay? Your wrist is the end of your forearm. So, but when you see guys doing this, it's kind of too fast to see. But right at the last split second, for just, maybe a half an inch or an eighth of an inch, their arm comes up. If they're playing on a flat surface. You don't really see it when they're playing a drum set because everything's got different angles to it. But if you're watching a drum line where all the drums are flat, you do see it a lot. So if you're thinking of just playing like maybe 8 inches high or 10 inches high, something like that, just took your other stick and did this, you would understand what that's like. Okay? And I know all this is really slow. I'm going to have to do a bunch of these videos because YouTube only has a 15-minute maximum. And I don't know how long I've been talking. I guess I got to start getting a stopwatch. But do this a lot. Do these simple, basic things because they really, really make a difference. It's going to enable you to be very relaxed and not have cramps when you play. And things you can do to help you. I guess I'm going to have to do, I'll do other videos like this. Lots of videos for beginners coming up. Okay, because I'm starting to get a handful of beginners chiming in with questions. Because they see some of the things that they like, but they just, I just touch on them really fast, and then I start playing them, a million notes again. So don't worry, guys. I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. Okay? So, you have to do that real slow. Don't worry if it's not a big, strong impact. Like, I'm not playing very loud here. The idea is to concentrate on that motion. And you see how it looks the same every time. That's the idea for putting your stick in between the end of that seam right there. You see it really closely. You go on the point where your thumb and your first finger come together and put that stick right there. Make sure your wrist and your knuckles move against each other. Okay? And that's what is going to help you to be able to do that. Okay? So work on that, and till next time, keep drumming.